Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation.
Hey everybody, it's that special time. Oh, my backlight is on. Hi, it's Debbie Levitt from Delta CX, and you've reached me on Tuesday, July 14, 2020, and it is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, the show that lives up to its name. You can absolutely ask me anything, though typically people are here to ask me questions about CX, UX, and working in those industries. I do collect anonymous questions. Let's put that up on the screen. Let's see. How about that? All right. I do allow anonymous questions if you have a question and for whatever reason you don't want people to see it's you. You can use this URL on the screen, deltacx.link, which is my URL shortener, /AMA. Ask me anything. I'm just getting a couple of windows set up here. And let's check the LinkedIn chat. And hope everybody's doing well and staying safe. Please let me know how you're doing. I'm doing fine. I see we've got one person in YouTube and three people on LinkedIn. So hello everybody. How is your summer or winter going, depending upon what side of the equator you're on? We do have two things to start with today that people sent me ahead of time. So remember this URL, deltacx.link, AMA. You can bookmark it. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you're welcome to send in questions even while I'm sleeping, and they will just be put on the pile for later. Hello, Sarah Price. Good to see you. I usually see your tweets. Hello, Maggie. Maggie, I think I need your help with designing some Four Horsemen merchandise. See Slack. Anuradha is here. I always give everyone a bit of an Italian pronunciation. I apologize. I realize not everybody is Italian, but that's kind of the phonemes that are in my head right now. So I apologize to all the not Italian people who get Italian pronunciations, which means it would be Maggie. Okay, so let me start with the two things that I got, but please ask your questions, and once I get through those other two, I will be taking your live questions both in LinkedIn and in YouTube, which of course reminds me to say, won't you please subscribe to this channel on YouTube? We now have over 600 subscribers. I'm very excited about how much it's been growing. Please tell friends and colleagues about it. It's the Delta CX channel. They can get there at deltacx.tv. Oh, I forgot to fix my... I have a line here. I've got to fix that. Questions are coming in. That's great. So please subscribe. Tell pals about it. Join us on Slack, deltacx.link/join Slack. Quick note, I am trying to redo our podcast XML for people who like to listen to the audio-only version of the podcasts. The only company that didn't F it up today was Apple, so it's on iTunes and it's mostly correct, but for some reason the XML file is not being correctly read by anybody. Spotify took down the podcast, Google Play took down the podcast, or I took it down when I didn't like what it looked like, and so just be patient on that. I'm working on it, but if you, I'm working on a few things. So more news coming about the audio-only podcast finding a new home. So please excuse me there. All right, let's start with some of our early questions and keep them coming. The first one was a comment and not really a question, but it was so beautiful I wanted to read it out loud. And someone wrote, "Hi Debbie, no question from me, just a message. A female startup founder here interested in UX CX topics, striving to learn more about building great products for humans that people love and want to use. Solving real problems, not just building things our ego tells us the world needs. I really enjoy your content. I watch and listen to all the episodes," which means hello, person who wrote this. "Keep up the great work you do. We need more powerful and inspiring women that are not afraid to speak their mind and say aloud bullshit when they see one. That's all." So thank you to mysterious person who sent that. It was really beautiful, made my day, and I greatly appreciate that, and thank you for sending that. You guys don't have to send me these things, but they're nice to see when they arrive. Okay. First question-y question. was from last week. It came in just as we were ending the office hours last week, and I did not get to it, but I didn't forget about it. And it was, when do you stop iterating? If customers reach the task in a reasonable time and with no errors, when do you know that the MVP is ready for developers and deployment? So again, here's another, like anything else, these are my opinions. You may ask other people and get other opinions. But my opinion on that is I don't want to just test a concept or a prototype for, well, they had no errors. Because there's sometimes a Grand Canyon between they had no errors and that was really a good solution for their problem. Because sometimes we've built the wrong solution for the problem, but they're walking through the process just fine and without errors. So does that mean we've done it right or done it wrong? So I always challenge people, you know what I'm going to say here, put on your critical thinking hats. Gives me flat hair, but what can I say? It's so hard to, the mirror image thing here doesn't work for me. Put on your critical thinking hat and make sure you're not just testing, are people completing this task in an okay amount of time, or are they completing it without errors, but can we tell from the way that we designed our testing that we have solved people's problems, that we have addressed their pain points, that we have met or exceeded their needs? So remember, please look for that as well. And of course, to me, that's when I can stop iterating, though often at many jobs and companies, I have to stop iterating before I've done that, which means I'm left with a last guess. But in a dreamy dream world, I would say that we are iterating until the testing shows not only that people are having a good experience with the interface and the process, but also that we appear to have the best execution of the best idea for what we've learned about problems, pain points, and opportunities. There you go. Let's go over to the email. We've got 2 questions coming in. And let's say copy paste, because these all go later in the YouTube description so people can easily find what the heck we talked about on any particular day. So we've got 2 questions that came in through the email. Very exciting that you guys are getting involved. So thank you. All right, so the first question that came in says, let's say that the current UX team is not collaborating with marketing. How do we get that conversation started? How do we approach this type of collaboration and get more stakeholders on board? Yeah, you know, I think there's obviously a very good question. I don't think there's one right way to do it or one only way to do it. Sometimes when it has to do with departments and teams collaborating, I usually want to bring in managers. I typically wouldn't say, oh yeah, this is for you. Yeah, you Maggie, you Sarah, you go talk to marketing and say, hey, I'd like to work with you some more. I think that that is probably not going to end up being the best way to go. And I think depending upon how you propose that, it could end up being something that makes marketing go like, why are they here? So I would say be careful of that kind of thing because, again, you do run the risk that marketing gets not territorial. Well, they can get territorial, but I guess they might not really totally understand why you're there and what you can do. So I usually think that this needs managers to intervene and for managers to meet with managers and for that CX or UX manager to go to that marketing manager and say, hey, you know, there's so many ways that we could be working together. Maybe you show them my 1-hour marketing keynote speech on the Delta CX YouTube channel in the conference sessions playlist, and you say there's so many ways we could be working together and there's so many ways that we could be supporting marketing's goals, initiatives, efforts, desired KPIs and outcomes. And hey, let's plan a project together where we can take some of the work off your plate that you may or may not like, and then we can make sure that we're using our expertise and our techniques to really try to make your KPIs and desired outcomes happen. And then of course you have to super kick butt on that project. You have to work extra hard because now you got to prove it. You can't get this one wrong. So be careful, because we don't want to get that one wrong. I'm trying to see if I can fix this chopped off hand thing. So probably next time. Hopefully that helps. Let's see if that helps. But again, I don't expect this to be a conversation you might have unless you are a manager. This is usually manager to manager. So anytime collaboration is going really terribly or hasn't really started yet, I tend to think it's for managers to come in and set the ground rules, set the strategy, that type of thing. Another question we got over email says, "Hi, I'm a product designer working on a small team of 3 designers. My question is, how do you deal with a project manager that involves himself too deeply in conducting his own UX research and inserts his own solutions before the team sets eyes on the project?" That's definitely a very common problem. It's very common for us, especially working in corporate environments, but sometimes government and other ones, where someone has decided we don't really need these UX people, or they just sketch the final sketches. I have an idea for this. And very often it's a product manager or a business analyst. I think it's less common that it's a project manager, but certainly it can happen. It could even be an engineering lead. So it can be anybody. So whenever it's collaboration gone wrong, I usually think that's for a manager to take care of, because I'm concerned about the conflict that might be created if you go to the project manager and say, "You're doing my job." How do we say that to the project manager without this going badly? I mean, again, and it also depends on what happens after you get this person's own solution. Like, do they expect you to follow that solution and truly put you in the box? Or do they treat it as a suggestion and you can completely ignore it? Obviously, if you can completely ignore it, then maybe we don't say too much to this person, other than stop doing whatever this research is, especially if they're talking to customers, because you want to be talking to customers. So somebody, possibly a manager, needs to talk to this person's manager and say, "Hey, it looks like we don't have the proper boundaries set for what each role does. Project managers should not be designing the product. They are project managers, but we can certainly include them if you would like. And here's some ways we can include them. For example, if, right now they're doing their own research, but their research is not being done correctly or scientifically based on the way we do our research. But if there's something they need to know for the project, they should collaborate with us and let us know what they're looking to learn, and we will spin up some research to learn that for them in the most correct and scientific way possible." So again, I would also kind of throw this one at managers to handle, for managers to talk to managers. I hope that is helpful. Okay, so we've got another question in the email, and then I saw Sarah had a question in the chat room. So we'll do email question first and then chat room question from Sarah. Anonymous question says, "I've been asked at a startup I work at to build design/research processes from my product manager. Not sure I understand that. I've been working there for a year and started as an intern. I don't really feel qualified to be making operating procedures between design and development. Is this part of the job and growing pains of a startup? I feel stuck on what move to take." Okay, I think I get this. So if you're listening to me live and I'm not getting this, shoot another thing through the anonymous question thing and set me straight. I'm going to try to answer this for what I think it is, and then we'll take a look at what Sarah and the chat room are buzzing about. Okay, so looking back at this question, you're at your startup, someone wants a design and research process. And that's a great opportunity. But again, if you're really very new to UX, it can be very hard to start thinking about things at that strategic level. And we've talked about this a little bit last week when we did episode 56. And we talked about levels of phases of proficiency in UX. I should slide over when I do that. Phases of proficiency in UX, where you may be approaching your work with good building blocks and good science and technique, but now they're asking you to be highly strategic, and not just strategic about your work or your department or the future of UX or CX, but even about how UX and CX probably plays together with other roles, how it fits into agile, maybe where the boundaries of UX are and where the boundaries of product management are, things like that. So I would agree that this is probably asking too much of you if you are, oh, wrong button. I slid myself in instead of sliding the other thing out. Sorry. So I would say that this is, if you really are newer to UX, this probably is asking too much of you. I would not expect you to be strategic at this level. I say that all the time when we talk about phases of proficiency and what's a junior and a mid-level and a senior and a leader. I usually don't expect this level of strategy until senior, lead, or higher. So that would mean 5-6 years of experience or more. So really, if this is your first couple of years, I can understand why you feel like you're not ready for that. I also don't know who your manager is. So hypothetically, if your manager is someone in UX, they would do that. But since you're telling me this is a startup, I'm going to assume that you answer to product, engineering, marketing, or maybe even a C-level person or a startup co-founder. So depending upon how small it is. So you have a couple of options here. And I'm going to say a couple of things that sound self-promoting. So please, take it how you want. One way is, of course, you could stab at this. And I would say, yikes, I can tell that you are a little bit stuck on this. You might have some ideas, but you might not feel like you have all the ideas. There's a couple of other things you can do, and I'm just going to use myself as an example, though obviously I'm not the only person who can do this. You can certainly reach out to other people. You can hire me as your coach, and I would help you build this out and be kind of your secret coach behind the scenes. And it might look like you magically did this, and I would help you behind the scenes. Is that totally honest? It's half honest. You're going to do plenty of work, but I will have filled in all the pieces. The other way is for you to say, hey, I'm really in my first year or two of UX, and that what you're asking for is really somebody, the type of thing that a head of UX, a director of UX does, and I just realize I'm not at that level yet, but there are consultants that we can bring in that can do this for us, and that is one of the consulting services that I offer. Again, that's a bit of a plug, but I know other people offer it as well. So pick who you like and talk to them about that. But using myself as an example, because I can't speak for anybody else, I could certainly come into the company virtually, of course, and work to build out that strategy and the operational standpoints and standards and how you work with other teams, and just do that as a consultant and, Mary Poppins it and fly in, fix everything, sing a few songs, and fly away. So that's something that we could certainly talk more about. If you want to set up a call with me, you probably know where to find that. If not, you can always go to the Delta CX website and go to contact us and just set up the free consultation call, and we can talk more about that and see if there's a thing that I can do for and with you. No other questions in email right now, so let's get to what Sarah has written in the chat room and everybody is buzzing about, and it looks like she has a question about something I've never heard of. So let's paste her stuff into the chat, into my stuff, and she's posting links to Twitter. Let me see. Okay, so Google announces that they're offering an online certificate that can be completed in 3 to 6 months, and that they would not require you to have a 4-year degree, which I think they had previously announced that they weren't going to require 4-year degrees, and that you can take their certificate. I'm just going to copy Sarah's link to this, and then I'm going to go to the web page myself and see what I can see, because I did not see this. And I'm not going to pretend I have. So let's see. Google, grow your business, get really, am I in the right place, Sarah? This is programs, personal growth, businesses, startups, teachers, YouTube creators, Android developers, nonprofits, cultural organizations. Sarah, which one would which one would you be going for? What would be the, oh, hey Vicky, good to see you. Digital workshop, remote work. Google has online courses. And I mean, if it counts as a 4-year degree, it'll only be to Google. It wouldn't be to anybody outside of Google, unless they became some sort of accredited university. Google Digital Academy, Google Personal Growth. I'm a little bit lost, Sarah. Does anybody know? I'm at grow.google.com certificates, right? Grow.google.com certificates. I did get redirected to a British version of the site because I'm in Italy, but I'm not seeing anything that looks like something a UX person would take, so I need a little bit more help here, Sarah. Certificates in Data Project Management and UX. Okay, Sarah's linked me to a CNBC article. And again, chances are if you take and pass these courses, my guess is that they might mostly count for Google. I don't know if other people are saying, ooh, that person took the Google course, that must be the way to go. This article is from yesterday. This is really new. Grow.google.com. Okay, grow.google/certificates. Hold on, let me try VPNing into America because I'm just getting something else. Let's try again. And again, Sarah, it is going to be hard for me to have an opinion about something I don't know about yet, but I'm going to try to see what I can find and see if I can get the US version of the site. Okay, I'm on the US version of the site, and I can say I want to be notified when these become available, so I'll get my information in there so that when you guys ask me about them, I'll have something smarter to say than I do today. All resources and subscribe. So I'll keep my eye on whatever this is. Subscribe. Subscribe's not working. That's awesome. I can't subscribe. So that's a fun UX moment. Oh, thank you for signing up. Weird. There's no progress. There's like no spin or anything. Okay. Career certificates. Data analyst, project manager, UX designer, UX designer. I can't click on it, so I don't know. This certificate, so let's talk about what the website says. This certificate teaches learners the foundations of UX design and research, building low-fidelity designs and wireframes, creating high-fidelity prototypes, and testing. So it sounds to me like Google is going to create their own boot camp, which might make sense for trying to bring people into Google, and then if they're awesome, get them into a Google job. It does look to me like Google creating their own boot camp, and there's no call to action yet for me to see more about the UX program. The only one that's got a call to action is IT support specialist. So I don't yet know what the UX designer is going to teach. I don't know what it's going to cost. I can't see any of this. Do you see a curriculum? I'm not seeing a curriculum. So, what do you guys know? Could it be something related to the new algorithm which will require UX in order to be listed up in the Google search? Probably not, only because I heard that a lot of the UX that Google is looking for on the page is possibly speed of page loading and whether or not you're using a lot of pop-ups. So not really heavy in UX the way we think of it. Vicky says, I think it's more like a Coursera course and not a boot camp. Okay, so maybe this is Google's answer to Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn Learning. That seems very possible. Tatuan is here. Great to see you. How have you been? She says, in terms of talent management, this would be super interesting. Imagine all applicants for certain jobs have to complete the certificate. When you assess them for work, you'd have rich data points through their coursework and interactions in the class to assess their level of comprehension, questioning approach to projects, collaboration with team members, how they self-assess. That's pretty much what I was thinking, Tatuan, but you said it much better. I was thinking perhaps this is kind of that way into Google, like take the Google course, and if people look really, really good in that course, then we want to kind of recruit them into Google. And if you didn't look so good, you graduate the course. You don't graduate the course, you get a certificate. Sarah says she doesn't see the information either. She wishes they had the information right away. I saw Anna P is here. Hello, Anna P. Mateo, you're going to have to VPN into America because I'm getting redirected to a UK site that says something very different. So see if you can VPN into America and then you will see this. Hi, Anna P. And by the way, this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. You guys, we've ended up on a bit of a tangent of something I can't even speak to yet because it appears to be Google creating some education and a certificate, but I can't see the curriculum, I can't see what it costs, so it's really hard for me to judge, but I was able to sign up for their notify me when this is available, so I'll see what emails I get about that. I'm going to look at their tech support certificate just to get an idea of what they're teaching. So, oh, it says it's on Coursera. So Vicky is beyond right. This isn't necessarily Google competing against Coursera. This is just on Coursera. So Google is pushing a Coursera course and the Google IT course. This certificate prepares you for an entry-level role as an IT support specialist. At a small company or large enterprise, IT specialists solve technical problems at organizations of all sizes. Okay. So I think it's $49 a month because that might be Coursera's fee. But now I'm going to click over to Coursera because, again, this is the tech support job, but it might give us a little preview of what the UX one might look like. So I'm definitely on the Coursera website. It's coursera.org/Google-IT. And enroll now, watch the video, personal stories, enroll now. So I'm going to go with Tadwan on this one. I would imagine Google's going to have lots of juicy RAM chips on how you did in that course and how quickly you did or how well it looked like you learned or where you got stuck or how dedicated you were to doing it. There's all kinds of data points Tatuan can tell you could be captured from somebody doing that course. And again, my guess would be funnel the great students into the Googleplex and the other people who don't do as well took a Coursera course. Tatuan says Google is still developing the course. It was just a press release that the news cycle went nuts about. Right now, they're still testing the waters and gathering interest levels. Well, sure. And again, I don't think this is going to be the equivalent of a 4-year degree. I know that Google already said they're not going to require 4-year degrees, but I guess it wouldn't be too crazy if they decided, and I'm just guessing here, that they really want to see that you've taken their courses. Interesting stuff. I think in the next year or two, we're going to see a lot of new interesting models for learning. And I think that we're going to see a lot of really new, fresh things, and maybe this is one of those. Hello, this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Please feel free to ask me anything. That was something I didn't know anything about, but I will always do my best. deltacx.link/AMA, and we've got a question. In the email, career advice question. Let's copy and paste this into the future YouTube description, and keep an eye on the chat room. Sarah says, thanks for trying. I know they just announced it. Yeah, they announced it yesterday, and I honestly rarely read the news because, let's face it, the news is depressing. So I did not know about this. Okay, fresh emailed question. Hi, career advice. Happy to help. Wanted to be a UX researcher after master's graduation, but due to COVID, financial crunch, and visa issues, had to temporarily take up UX engineer role. So I guess maybe that's front-end dev? Because I was a former developer and had the experience for it. Okay, there you go. Suggestions on making my way back to the UX research track. What steps can I take while on this position to keep up and land a UXR job maybe at the end of the year? Super question. I'm getting a lot of these questions privately, so I'm so happy that someone asked this one now so that I can say something publicly and tell everybody, go watch Office Hours. About a half hour in. So my advice to people right now, and this is not the advice I would have given last year, but given COVID, given the economy, given how many jobs have been laid off, or jobs that have been canceled or changed or redirected, or you name it, it is not a candidate's market right now. We do not have our pick of jobs. There are way too many of us looking for what's right now very few jobs. And so instead of my usual chase your dreams job suggestions, I've been telling people, please just find something that makes money, even if it's not your dream job. Now might not be the time to get your dream job. Keep trying, but remember, almost everything that I've looked at or applied to has had 200 or more people apply to it. It is way more competitive than it's ever been, partially from all the recent graduates and partially from all the people at all levels who have been laid off. I've seen managers laid off. I've seen everybody laid off. So let's just say, for starters, I'm for people surviving. I understand that this might just be a time in our lives where we look back and we say, you know what? I took a job that wasn't my first choice, second choice, 10th choice, but I made it through that period. While I knew people who struggled more than I did, I made it through. And I think that type of resilience and swallowing of pride is going to be important right now. And so I usually don't tell people go out and kiss a lot of frogs, but I think in this case it's going to be important to swallow a little bit of pride and just make sure that you have a job and you make money. So that's my first thing. The second thing is, how do you get back on the UX research track and try to possibly get that job, later this year or maybe next year? My first question would be, have I seen your portfolio? I'm not the best at UX research portfolios. Michelle Ronson's probably better at that. But I would say, number one, is your portfolio freaking awesome? So, go watch podcast episode, was it 55, on portfolio do's and don'ts. Make sure you have the best portfolio. Do you have a portfolio that says, I can absolutely hit the ground running with research, maybe at a junior level, but research right now? Or does your portfolio say, I'm kind of guessing, I'm kind of still learning, I might not be ready for that job? Now, my answer is different based on which of these things is true for you. If you know from impartial people, not your school advisor, not your school instructor, because I have found that they have horses in the race and they sometimes would rather be a rah-rah cheerleader than tell you what might be a more honest truth. And Maggie knows when I say rah-rah cheerleader, we have to do this. So I am definitely not a cheerleader, and find someone who's not a cheerleader, who is going to definitely challenge you and definitely push you a little bit and look more objectively at that portfolio and make sure they say, yeah, looks like you've got good process, good, what's the things I always say? Come on, everybody, jump in and say them before I do. Building blocks, science and technique, strategy. So are you showing good depth, quality, science, technique in your work, or are you still a little bit lower on the proficiency level? So if your portfolio looks awesome, then I would keep applying for jobs and just hope that you strike a good one at some point. If you have shown your portfolio to some people and it looks like maybe you're not quite ready, you're still learning, you're still guessing, you need more practice, I am typically recommending Michelle Ronson's courses at Curiosity Tank, and I'm going to type that. Hold on, curiositytank.com. Let's get that on the screen today. Curiositytank.com. I don't want to spell it wrong, people. Oh, I've got a layering problem. Boo. Where's my questions? Too many things, people. Too many things. If only you saw my TV system. I could show it to you. Too many. Oh, there it is. It's orange. Why is it orange? Take that out. There we go. People, I recommend Michelle's courses at curiositytank.com. Hold on. She just gave me a discount code to give you guys. Let me type that in as well. Delta CX50. Okay, so if you use Delta CX50, you'll get $50 off any course that you sign up for at curiositytank.com. I, of course, suggest the bundle, but I know it's expensive. I don't make any money from this. I told her whatever she would give me to give you guys as a discount. So I promise on my 5 dogs and boyfriend I do not make any money on this. This is all for you guys. So I would take a look at her courses, because not only does she really do a good job teaching research in depth, but she also has people taking the course doing a sample project that ends up in the portfolio and might just be the project that helps you get that job. So I would take a look at her stuff if you feel like your portfolio might not be strong enough just yet. So thank you. Denise, I see you have a question. We also just got one in from the email. Looks like it's Monique, which means it's not so anonymous, Monique. But let's see. I'm going to hold off on some of these questions because Monique said it was Monique, and I don't know if she meant to be anonymous. People, don't write your name in the thing if you don't want me to know who it is, because then I think it says that when you put in the anonymous question, it says whatever you put here I'm going to read out, and if it's got your name I'm going to say it. So I'm going to start with Denise's question. Denise says, how to collaboratively work on analyzing user research data. I see everybody has different understanding from the same user insights. Denise, my advice is that should never happen, as in you should never be collaboratively analyzing user research data. There's no reason for everybody to be analyzing user research data. My suggestion for you is episode 45. Let me get you a link. This is my I'm the doctor, and this is your prescription, and you have to take this. And boom. I strongly suggest seeing my video on why we don't want to do those things. I think my Lean UX video covers that a little bit as well. And the problem is, like you said, because analyzing research is not a strength for most people. Most people are not good detectives. Most people don't see patterns. Most people can't remove their biases or their lenses or their preferences and be able to just analyze the research very well, we end up with a whole bunch of opinions. And that's going to be very hard for you to end up working collaboratively or aligning people on, because now it's just everybody's opinions. And this is why I recommend that this pretty much never happen. That basically, if you I know you have some troubles at your job where you're not able to set up some of these important boundaries. Again, you're welcome to show this to your boss. Hello, engineering guy. But I would say it's important to set up boundaries early, that tasks that are UX are done wholly by UX, and that we do not have everybody analyze user research, just the way we don't have everybody work on software architecture. I bet your boss is not calling in marketing and calling in you when it's time to make engineering decisions and come up with software architecture. I bet they're not bringing you in. And so I found that for some reason people want to get involved in UX even if they know nothing about UX, even if they're bad at it, even if they don't understand user research. They somehow want to be involved in this, and that's really a power and control thing, because magically they're not inviting you to help out with their decision making or their process. And that's how we know that this isn't really about collaboration and this isn't really about team building, because you never get invited to help in their domain. And that's something I bring up in the collaboration thing. So again, this might be a job where it's very hard for you to change some of the struggles that you're having with these people. I'm always hoping you'll find a better job that appreciates you more. I don't mind saying that out loud. I hope you don't mind. But I would say that this is a hard one. This is you always you, Denise, have a lot of hard ones to change, just because you have a situation where you appear to be in a company that doesn't totally get UX and doesn't really appreciate it, and seems to think that it's just something that everybody stabs at and we just all guess at it and we fight over it. And that's bad for culture. That's bad for everything. So, I know you may not be able to control it. Denise says, what if another UX designer is involved in the analyzing? Only if they're good at research. Not every UX designer is good at research. Some people are stronger at information architecture and interaction design, and they can be somewhat weak at planning research, executing research, analyzing research. So I would only bring in other people if I really feel like they're going to positively add to my process in some way. If I feel like, oh no, this is someone I'm going to have to manage, or this is someone I'm going to have to explain things to, or this is someone who's biased, or this is someone who's really bad at this, then I'm not in a big rush to tell you, yes, bring in that other person. So I hope that helps. We can always have some more private conversations about this, but I know ultimately I don't always have a lot of great suggestions for you, because you do have some strange situations. So let's take a couple. We've got some other questions, one in the chat room, one privately. I'll do chat room and then private. Keep them coming. I'm still here another almost 20 minutes. Here's a question. What are your primary go-to stories to validate the need to invest in conducting user research in the product design and development process? I do have some go-to stories about that. Thank you for asking. And it really depends on the type of company that I'm talking to. So I have a startup story that I tend to tell to startups. When I talk more about, sure, Denise, always happy to try to help you, even though I know it's a tough situation, and I just hope you'll find something else. When it is on a more corporate level, some of the stories I tend to tell usually include Skype. And so there's a story from Skype from 2018 where Skype had spent rumor, and I can't prove this, tens of millions of dollars coming up with a new version of Skype. They'd been started working on it they released it in 2017, and it was a huge failure. And in 2018, they actually wrote on their own blog, "We're sorry we gave you this garbage. We're going to fix it and redo it." So this is the story I tell people of the time that Skype announced they would redesign their redesign after spending a rumored amount of tens of millions of dollars. But you guess for yourself, it's probably at least millions, because Skype is available on so many platforms. And what happened was, when this was released in 2017, and I got all my information comes from public sources. I don't have inside knowledge of this. I know people who do, and they won't tell me. So what happened was it looks like Skype wanted to figure out how to get some of that Snapchat market. And they wondered, how could they appeal to a younger audience, or the millennials, or the younger than millennials, because, Snapchat is so hot, why can't Skype get a piece of that action? Now, I can see how that makes sense with empathy hat on, and I don't have an empathy hat, but with empathy hat on, I can see how we might want to try to open up to a new target market. But what happened was Skype decided to rip off a lot of Snapchat. They went pretty wild with their colors and visual design, and they ended up creating something that really a lot of people rejected. And they learned that the hard way. And I use this as an example of research, because what I don't know, because I don't have inside knowledge, is where was the UX team for all of this? Because hypothetically, if a product manager comes to me and says, "Hey, we have this great project for you. We're going to totally redo Skype, and it's really going to appeal to younger people." And my brain would flash to like all of the grandmas in India who rely on Skype, and all the grandmas and other people around the world and Europe, and where it is still so heavily used as a key tool. And my first thought would be, well, are we sure that's the direction we want to go with our product? Why don't you let me do a little bit of research so that I can just get into some people's heads, understand their mental models, see why and when they use Snapchat, see why and when they use Skype, see why and when they use WhatsApp and other things, and see kind of, what people really need most from Skype. What do people need and expect from Skype? And if we take a look at some of our competition, what problems could we solve that they're not? How about I do some research on that? Did that happen? I don't know, because remember, this project went forward and went live, and that's how we know about it. So I don't know if UX research offered to do that and got shot down. I don't know if they didn't offer to do that, because sometimes I've worked at places where they don't like to tell UX too much, and they just start running with a project, and later on they ask UX for wireframes. So then my other question was, well, then where was UX at the next point of the process? Where's UX to say, you know what, I'm not sure we should do this. Let me whip up a quick prototype. Just of like what Skype would be like if it were kind of more Snapchatty, and let's just kind of, test it on some of this younger audience you think you want to court. Did that happen? Because ultimately, I feel like if any of these things had happened, it should have stopped Skype or pivoted Skype. They shouldn't have spent tens of millions, and they shouldn't have released it live to learn what a sad dog it was. And what I also remind people, and a lot of people outside of America don't know Venmo, but if you know about Venmo, you know that Venmo is PayPal with a happy face on it aimed at millennials. I'm evidently too old for Venmo, you whippersnappers. And when PayPal realized they wanted to appeal to a younger audience with a different look, a different feel, a different user experience, they created Venmo. And Venmo is super hot. It's such a hot way that people pay each other, that Facebook and other people are always trying to get into that game. But it's really PayPal with a different face on it. And so I would have said to Skype, like, are we sure that this has to be Skype? Could Skype continue to be Skype for the people who like Skype for XYZ reasons? And could we build this other thing called Squiggle or whatever, which is secretly Skype and works on Skype's engine and architecture and platform, but has a different look and feel and face, like the Venmo of Skype? So I think there are so many questions that good UX researchers, you could say designers too, but I almost feel like this didn't even make it. Like before this makes it to designers, this should have made it through researchers who should have been like, wait a minute, Skype? We're freaking Skype. So, again, I don't have inside knowledge of that, but that, based on the many articles I read about it, that is one of the stories that I tend to tell about such a public failure where they must have spent millions, if not tens of millions, to make Skype for Android, iOS, Mac, Linux, Windows, to test it, to make it work, and for it to have been considered awful. Lee, you're welcome. So it's even a slide in my presentations, and I do that one. I also do a little bit on Blizzard, for those of you who are gamers. A couple of years ago, Blizzard decided to come out with a phone game, and they announced it at their own conference and got booed at their own conference because most of their audience are PC gamers, PC Windows or Mac, but computer gamers, because they like having the keyboard and all the keys and all the things you can do, which would be a lot harder in a mobile thing. And Blizzard actually totally stepped in it. The guy who was up on the stage at the time, when he got booed, he said something like, "Well, you all have phones, right?" So he figured if they're a gamer and they have a phone, they'll want this. And so that shows bad research, lack of research, incorrectly interpreted research, because everyone at Denise's company wanted to jump in on it. Yeah, exactly. So Lee is saying in the YouTube chat, conducting UX research is one thing, but doing the right research with impartiality is critical. And Lee, I would say that you've accidentally stumbled right into my new model, which of course is, I can go at the building blocks level and I could say, I'm going to do research. I'm going to go ask people if they would like a phone game. Hey, guess what? People like phone games. The science and technique is what you're talking about. And again, this is the model that I showed last week when we talked about why many boot camps aren't getting people really up to speed, because they're teaching people at the building blocks level, like, let's do research. Go talk to 2 people. Well, who were they? What did you ask them? Why only 2? So this is where, again, to quote what Lee said, conducting research is one thing, but doing the right research with impartiality is critical. Yes. Planning it correctly, executing it correctly, interpreting it correctly. This is in our depth, quality, science, and technique phase of proficiency. This is my new phases of proficiency model. So anybody can play with building blocks. Building blocks are mostly fill in this template. Or, hey, I'm going to do research. Lee, would you like a cup? Lee likes cups. That means we should make cups. Okay, boom. So that's bad research done badly. That's at the building block level. And then we have our science and technique level, which is where we really show off our proficiency and our ability to do these tasks and this work with depth and quality. Otherwise, they're just tasks, and they're rather low quality. So I think that kind of plays into what Lee is saying. And you can see I'll be pulling that one out a lot. I made it a graphic in my little TV studio system here. So Lee, great question. I've got a few of the, and quickly to end the Blizzard story, Blizzard got shredded in all the tech blogs and the gamer blogs, and the main thing that people shredded them for was like, how did you not know that people were going to have this negative reaction? Because Blizzard's comment was, we expected some backlash, but we didn't expect this much backlash. And my point was, okay, you just basically said I'm out of touch with my customer base. I don't know what my customer base wants. It would have been better if they had done proper CX and UX research and then been able to say internally, there's a lot of our current customers who aren't going to want this mobile game, but perhaps we're attracting a new audience who will want the mobile game. We're going to have to present it in a way that makes it clear to our fans that we're still dedicated to PC gaming and that this phone game might not be for them. Scott says, this is why I hate seeing research democratized, so people who aren't typical practitioners just throw it as a skill on their workload. Would you use X? Oh, sure. Well, our research says they want X. Let's build it. Scott's totally right. We see this a lot. Obviously, this is junk science. It is manipulated data. And again, because we care about science and technique, we do not want junk science. Some of you have seen some of my slides on bad UX research. My favorite question, Scott, I think we already talked about this, was from a 1990s commercial where a guy with a cat looks at the camera and says, "Is a cat's urinary tract health important?" And of course my answer is, only if you want to be allowed to own a cat. That's like a question we shouldn't even be asking. There's only one answer to that. And very often when we ask people, do you want this? The answer is, sure, yeah. But I love to hold up this cup and talk about it because I bought these cups in America. They are the size of my head. But if you've ever been to Italy, they drink out of the tiniest cups in the world. And my boyfriend doesn't use these cups. He's graduated to a slightly larger cup, but he's still an Italian and he does not want the monster 1-liter cup. So just because someone might want a cup doesn't mean they want this cup. How well can we do this research, peeps? I will stay late because we have so many questions today. We've got 2 questions coming in on the anonymousness. So let's talk about anonymous questions coming in. Okay, question 1. I had a friend ask me to do some user testing on a new product his company is developing. It was launched a month ago, so they have 1 month of Google Analytics data. It's an online compensation calculator with about 7 or 8 different screens in the user flow. When I asked, why user testing? He said, they have a lot of incoming traffic, but lose them along the way. Well, with 7 or 8 screens in the user flow, I see the foreshadowing. He would like to discover some user pain points and insights into the drop-off rate. Is there any other user research you'd recommend? No hot jar recordings or anything like that at this point. Thanks so much. Okay, cool question. Thank you, anonymous person, for sending that in. Let's talk about it. So first of all, hot jar recordings are super cool, and I do like them, but remember, they are passive. So we can definitely watch people. And another thing I like about hot jar recordings is I can say, show me everybody whose exit page was the 3rd step of the process. Especially if they are pages rather than states of a screen. If they're just states of a screen, then that function in Hotjar won't help you. But you can still watch these videos, and you will definitely, now you'll learn where people drop off. Also, Hotjar does a funnel where you can say they should be on this step, then this step, then this step. Again, that only works if each is a discrete page. If they're all states of a page, then it's not going to do that. Ultimately, this is the type of thing for which I would do a sort of observational study. And these can be done remotely. You could get onto Zoom with someone. You could have them share their screen, and you could give them a task. You're trying to determine if you would make X money if this happened. I don't know what these calculators are and why there's 7 screens to do the calculation. Most online salary calculators I've seen are 5 boxes on 1 screen, so I'm not too sure what they're doing here. We would have to see this. Also, sometimes I can look at these things and figure out pretty quickly where the problem is. But again, that's technically an expert guess compared to doing good observational research, watching people go through it. And even though because you're testing them, they will go through to the end very typically, you can start to notice, where did they pause? Where did they stall? Where did they get lost? Where did they express frustration? Where did they go, where did they not have a piece of information that the screen is asking for? Now they've got to leave or wait. So you probably would learn a lot. You'd learn some stuff from Hotjar, and you'd learn even more from this type of watching someone. But the key to watching someone is watching someone and not constantly interrupting them to ask them questions. I know some schools are telling people, like, stop and ask them what they're doing. Like, yeah, check out Hotjar, Taiwan. It's a neat system. It is the cheap competitor to Full Story and 4C. So if you are at a company with bigger budgets who like more enterprise software, you might be looking at Full Story or 4C. But I like Hotjar because it can be pretty cheap and pretty effective. So anonymous person, I would say some Hotjar recordings would be a nice start. They can sometimes tell some of the story, and then maybe watch some people using this thing. Scott says Hotjar is nice. I agree. Okay, we have another anonymous question, and then we're kind of out of time. So if you guys have more questions, I encourage you to ask them. You can send this all week, but I'm going to have to answer them next week. I hope nothing's burning on fire. So this person says, context. I'm a junior UI UX designer with a very small team of 2 designers. So I'm assuming you're one of those 2. Our startup has less than 20 people. More often than not, my supervisor, who is our VP of product, tends to create a rough MVP of features on our platform and launches it live to customers with no consideration or research or design without the rest of the design team knowing, and then gives it to us as a project to fix it. How do I get him to approach this differently? How do I open a conversation to avoid him gatekeeping important projects that affect how we look as a company? This one's a really hard one, where your problem is your manager. Very often I find that when your problem is your manager or supervisor, that might just be a company where you're not going to stay at very long, because you usually are turning to your manager to solve your problem. But when your manager is your problem, that's a whole new level of awkwardness, and I can see why you're asking me what to do, because that is a very tough one. I also find that startups who have read the Lean Startup book have a very skewed idea of how processes should work, and we are going to talk about this on a future podcast. But the Lean Startup book basically is a how-to manual of how to guess at UX when nobody who does UX works at your company. Once you have somebody working in UX at the company, which would hypothetically be you and perhaps your teammate, the concept of the MVP is supposed to take a little bit of a different approach. So the Lean Startup book says the best way to build software is to make an MVP, so maybe code a real thing, release it to your customers, and quickly find out if they like it or not. If they like it, great, build something else. If they don't like it, oops, make another MVP. The problem with this is that it is highly guess-based, and it is not grounded in proper research. The Lean Startup will tell you, get away from the mirror, get out of the building, and go talk to customers. But it's not a good book on explaining to people how to do good UX research. So we get what we just talked about, where people go, hey, our startup wants to build something like this. Would you like that? Yeah, I want that. I'll pay for it. So whether or not they've done that pseudo research, very often startups are guessing at these MVPs based on what they think they'd like to build or what they think people will want, and they have good intentions. But then the Lean Startup makes it seem like you have to release your product to the public in order to get feedback on it. The problem is that Agile and Scrum also picked up on this, and they figured, oh, yeah, right, that sounds really great and lean. Yeah, make some sort of live version of the product, put it out to the public, and then see how the public reacts to it and fix it from there. The problem is that's really neither Agile nor Lean, because that could be an absolute waste of engineering time if you built something that people didn't really want, and it can be an absolute waste of goodwill with our customers if we are serving them up bullshit. So how do I get someone out of that mindset? It's been very, very hard because they read the Lean Startup book. They think this is what startups do. And then here I show up and I go, startups fail 90% of the time. Why do we want to use that? And they're all using that model. Are you sure you want to use that model? The one that everyone's failing with? So what I remind people is that the best way to do this is to shift it so that the MVP is in UX's hands first. So let's imagine that the MVP for your product has 5 features. Instead of the product person building some sort of MVP, UX should, again, even if they're not going to let you do research, but you should be doing research. So hypothetically, UX should be doing research, architecture, make a prototype, test the prototype on real or archetypal customers, and then be able to go back to the VP of Product Design and say, looks like this idea could work. Sure, let's build it out and release it to the public. Or you would be able to have tested the prototype, and you can go back to the VP of Product and go, we tested this, and we don't think this should go out to the public. This is flawed. It's not quite right. It's not what people need. If we put this out as an MVP, we're going to see it as a failure. So we have to try to explain to that product manager that UX is going to mitigate business risk, but also bring to life the real spirit of the MVP, in that if the MVP is all about testing with customers in order to find out their real wants and needs and the direction of the product, then isn't it so much more agile and lean to do that before engineers write a line of code? When we're in the UX phase, when we're able to do this with quick prototypes and quick testing of those prototypes rather than engineering burning all of that time. Now, if every time your boss does this, the MVP is declared a success, then this is someone who's going to say, I'm good at this, I'm doing this right, more of this. If we find that these MVPs are failing in small or large ways, that they're not what the customer wants, this is obviously a delicate situation for the VP. The VP is doing work that is wasting everybody's time and could be saved by UX testing these things using their methods, using their prototyping and testing, rather than having engineering or product code it and release it, launch it live. I would say show this to your VP of product, since it's coming from me and not from you. This is my suggestion. And also I would suggest going into the YouTube channel, deltacx.tv will get you there. And there is a playlist called Conference Sessions and Mini Workshops. And there is a 1-hour session called Dev and UX, dev like development. And that is the 1-hour version of the 1-day workshop that I give as private training. And that is a short 1-hour version that explains to people what UX does, why it's specialized, how it fits into an organization, and how it's absolutely going to save engineering teams time, money, and sanity. It's going to save companies from making mistakes. It's going to help with risk. It's going to help everybody save money. And if your VP has been putting out things that are kind of failing or considered broken or considered wrong, it's going to help your VP look better, because that your VP wants to look good. And if this person keeps doing this, they'll alienate you. They'll alienate anybody with a sense that this is not the right way to go. They'll alienate other people who will start to notice the time and money that's been burned on these ideas. It's really not the way to go. So I'm planning a podcast on how and where the Lean Startup book is quite flawed, and I always wonder if it leads to some of the startup failure we see. Because let's face it, we see a huge amount of startup failure and very little startup success. And are they all following Lean Startup? Well, then Lean Startup's broken. And of course, Lean UX stole from Lean Startup, so that didn't help. And then Agile and Scrum stole from Lean UX. So we just have this disgusting set of dominoes falling right on us. So again, please go and look for that Dev and UX thing, that might be able to help you a little bit. I don't think I have any other podcast that's specifically about trying to get a product manager to stop designing things and releasing them. Another conversation to try to have is, how do you see my role? Because that guy might just end up saying, because you can't, the fix-it thing doesn't work. I have lots of stories about companies I've worked at where the engineering lead decided to build what he wanted, no matter what I wanted, and then when it was totally broken and tested badly live out to the public, he told me to make his idea work. And you can't make a bad idea work. I mean, a bad idea is a bad idea. So I would say, and again, stop playing it for your boss here. But I would say brush up that resume, brush up that portfolio, start looking, because that person probably is at an ego level where they're not going to hear what you have to say. If they do, I'll be thrilled and relieved and happy to hear it. But very often people like that who are sure that they know the best way to build something and we don't have to involve you guys and you're just my grunt workers and all that, you're not going to be happy, and you just have to let that person hang themselves. I mean, if I'm the CEO of that company, I should be watching how much time the VP is wasting and how much engineering money the VP is wasting, or the VP's own time that they're wasting. Really, a VP is supposed to be a strategic and operational role. They should be sitting around coming up with strategy and let you do your job. So, and Lee is pointing out in the chat room that also please note that you might walk away. I'm going to paraphrase what she's saying. Please note that you might walk away from this job with nothing to put in your portfolio. And you're not going to have good stories to tell to that next hiring manager, because they're going to say, show me your work. Show me how you addressed this project. And you're going to say, I waited to get orders from my boss who sketched everything. Yeah. So it puts you in a situation where if this doesn't get improved or fixed, you will not be able to put anything in your portfolio from it. And I can certainly speak to that because I worked at Macy's for 2 years and I cannot put anything in my portfolio for some similar reasons, though different. Similar, parallel, but not the same. And, we want a job that we like, and we want a job that feels rewarding, and we want a job where we can get things done. But also, we want to have stuff to put in our portfolio and stories to tell for that next job. And I just feel like from what you're saying, and as Lee pointed out, I can't take credit for this one. By the way, yes, this is green screen friendly. I think that one's just not going to work out. Anyway, we have run super, super late. If there's any last comments, I'll take them, but it's a little too late for questions. I'm 10 minutes over. I do this every week at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Won't you please join me next week for Office Hours Ask Me Anything? It's every Tuesday. Also, please subscribe here on YouTube. It is the best way to support what I do. I've got over 600 subscribers now. I'm shooting for 1,000, and someone recently made me promise that at 1,000 subscribers, we will do a video introducing you to my boyfriend. Evidently, some of you are curious. So, mystery boy, what did you say? What? Yes, you're gonna be. But he wants to wear a green shirt in front of the green screen, so he's a floating head. I probably won't let him. Boyfriend reveal at 1,000 subscribers. Maggie says also throw the confetti. So for you, Maggie, confetti, hooray. 600 subscribers, let's get it to 1,000. And again, that all depends on you guys subscribing and telling your friends. YouTube statistics tell me that half of you who watch the videos are not subscribed. Luckily, the video is still available to you. I'm not going to gate it off, but I would certainly appreciate that subscription. And with that, I guess we will shut it down, and I will work on fixing this line problem. and because that looks weird. And I hope everybody has a great day and stays safe. Remember, tomorrow is live UX education brainstorming. Join us at 6:30 p.m. Italy time, where I will then give out a mural link, and we will go through. I will be facilitating a structured workshop that I've created to look at ideas for improving education in UX and CX. Yes, thank you. Lee says it's free. Subscribe. She's right. I'm not charging you guys. So thanks again, everybody. Stay safe. Stay inside. I don't think social distancing is working. Stay home. Be safe. And catch you guys soon.
Thanks for watching. Delta CX is available for consulting and projects related to CX and UX strategy, leadership, training, problem finding, problem solving, and innovation. Learn more at deltacx.com.